This meeting will come to order. Good evening and welcome to the February 24, 2022 meeting of the Southeast Delco Board of School Directors. May we please stand to salute the flag and for a moment of silence. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Butler, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may, Madam President. Mrs. Abney, absent. Ms. Perry,
Present.
Ms. Monroe,
Present.
Mrs. Peter Coey,
Present.
Ms. Woodfolk,
Present.
Mrs. Washington,
Present.
Mr. Fowler,
Present.
Ms. Crawley,
Present.
Ms. Harris Johnson,
Present.
Dr. Winder,
Present.
Mr. DiOrio,
Present.
and Mr. Butler, present.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
You're welcome.
I don't have any comments at this time. Dr. Winder, do you have a superintendent's report?
I do. Have several announcements. Is Anthony Alexander in the room? Yes. Hi, we're going to ask Anthony if he would come up, please. Good evening. Excuse me for sitting. On behalf of the Southeast Delco School District Board of School Directors, the staff, and the community, we would like to thank Anthony Alexander for his heroic action. Anthony Anthony demonstrated an unbelievable amount of bravery as he quickly acted to save his fellow community members from harm. We are immensely thankful for Anthony and his selfless actions that resulted in a positive outcome. This unfortunate situation could have turned tragic if not for his and the Collindale Sergeant Kilroy's smart actions and leadership. Please help me once again giving Anthony a round of applause, as well as his parents. Anthony, on the behalf of our school district, this is a small token of our appreciation for all that you have done.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Anthony, on behalf of the school board, we also thank you for your bravery that you showed towards someone else's life. And it could have turned out differently, but it didn't, thank God. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We also have some other congratulations. Our Sharon Hill School and Academy Park High School students were invited by the Sharon Hill Borough Council to participate in February's 2022 Sharon Council meeting. Unfortunately, we had a committee of the whole and could not attend, but we had some students that were participating. For 7th grade, we had Aisha Diallo, Milan Hughes, Omari Nutter, and Anaya Pittman. They did a group theme, Black Girl Empowerment and Conflict Resolution. The group also presented the following quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." And then we had an 8th grader, Joy Knight. Joy is an aspiring author and creative writer. She writes short stories and actively works on writing novels. And as a result of all that she's done, at the meeting, Mr. Richard Aspey, Sharon Hill Library Director, agreed to have Joy's novel writings published. Congratulations to Joy. And then we have one last congratulations for Sharon Hill School, Miss Tehan. Congratulations to Miss Tehan, a 1st grade teacher, for being recognized as a 2021-2022 Excellence in Teaching recipient. This is her 2nd time receiving this award during her tenure here at Southeast Delco. And she will receive a commemoratory plaque, $1,000 towards educational expenses, and an additional $1,000 for the school, along with a lot of other awards. And we are just grateful to have her representing the Southeast Delco School District. All right. And at this time, we will have a quick update to our comprehensive plan. There were some copies out at the desk for those that needed them. First slide. We have talked about a couple weeks ago that we have a mission and a vision statement. As we did our surveys from the communities, the students, as well as the parents and the staff, it was an overwhelming outcome that there was time to update our vision and mission. So that will be part of our project as we work on our comprehensive plan. Next slide. And we know as we work on our mission and vision, we will also need to work on our shared values. So as we start nearing the date for us to start updating our plan, those are things that we will be doing. Next slide. We have met as an administration team to go through all of the variety of expectations from the Department of Education. We actually had one of our meetings today with our subcommittees. We will have 4 subcommittees that will meet: Special Education and Gifted, with Dr. Gibbs Tapper and Mr. Baxter being the chairpersons. Academic Standards and Assessments, Dr. Ryan and Mr. Hubin. New Teacher Induction, Dr. Shannon Reddick-Smack and Mr. Craig Butler. And Professional Development, Dr. Guy Lowry and Mr. Brian Wilson. So when we start meeting as a whole group, these are the groups we will break out into to start meeting the qualifications and expectations of the Pennsylvania Department of Ed. Next slide. When I'm working on a comprehensive plan, it is essential that you review a variety of data to ensure that whatever your strengths are or your challenges are have come out in more than one way. So on this page and the next page, you will see, and I will not read each and every one of them, that there's a variety of data that we will collect, not just academic data, but demographic data, discipline data, attendance data, graduation rates, to ensure that we are looking through a variety of windows as we work to get our plan in place for the next 3 years. So that was data collection, pages 1 and 2. Then we have our focus groups. We have began planning our focus groups and setting up meetings so that we can have some in-person data collection. We see that we will begin on March 2nd at Academy Park, and then we will have our 4 1 to 8 schools on March 3rd. Then on March 8th, we will have our kindergarten center and our ESC, and we are also working to have 2 parent focus groups as well. So that is what we're working on now to ensure another set of data points outside of the surveys that we have already collected. Next is our draft of our first meeting. So in our first meeting, which is scheduled for March 16th, we have already sent out links. We will do introductions. We will do an overview and the purpose of the planning meetings. We will begin with an overview of the process, and then we will break up into small groups so that they can now look at the mission and the vision statement and to provide us with some pointers of things that they think need to be included. Then each of those groups, which will be these subcommittees, will come back and the captains of those teams and bring us that information so we can work together to create a vision and a mission that is inclusive of a variety of stakeholders' thoughts and feelings. And then we will have the small groups begin to discuss what their particular group is about. So if someone's on the special education committee, that chairperson will be able to talk to them about special education, gifted, what it is, and then from there begin to set the parameters for what they need to do to provide feedback to help her create that plan. Then we will come back to a whole group discussion where each of the members can share out for a few minutes from each of the groups. Then we will have a reflections and we will complete a ticket out, which will be a plus delta. And that is just a draft. As we meet, which we have our next meeting March 9th, we will begin to tweak and firm this up for March 16th. Next. This action planning, each time that I present, I just update it for you of other things that might have been added that was not on there before. So since the last time we met, I've added our subcommittee meetings for February, March, April, and May. I've also added that we had to move one of our dates around, so I moved that around to ensure that we were able to meet but not conflict with other things that are going on with the school and in the districts. And each time we will upload more data to it. After this meeting, you will see November and December move off. January and February will move up. That way we can try to keep this snapshot to one page, and all the things that we've done already, you will have heard about them or seen them at least twice. And last slide, any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winder. Now we'll do the approvals. May I have a motion to approve the February 24, 2022 agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 27, 2022 regular board business meeting?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any questions on the bills? Seeing none? Do I have a motion to approve the bills for payment in the amount of $5,577,939.14?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Questions on new business items? Are there any questions on new business item 1? Are there any questions on items 1 and 4?
Sorry, Madam President. Are we going to discuss 5 and 6?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We have 2 calendars that was submitted for voting tonight. One of the calendars, 5A, in November, the district would have, for the 22nd and the 23rd, it would be early dismissal, and the 24th and the 25th, that would be a holiday. On the other calendar, which is 5/6, the same month of November, they would have early dismissal on the 21st and the 22nd, and they would be off for the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th. They would, all 3 of those days would be holidays. So now, is there any discussion on? One moment. The last teacher's day on the calendar would be the 16th. For the first one, that's 5A. And on the 5/6, it would be, the last teacher's day would be the 20th. Now the floor is open for discussion.
Wait a minute, I'm confused here. You're saying for 5A, what about the 16th?
The 16th would be the last teacher day because they would have gone to school on the 23rd. So the teachers would get out that Friday. On number 6, because they got off that Wednesday, they would have to make that day up, and the last teacher day would be the 20th of June.
It will be the 20th of June.
Yes, because the 19th is a holiday.
Is there any more open discussion on those 2 calendars? 5A and 5 and 6? Now we're going to vote on,
I just have a question. Do the teachers have a preference? I think we originally got into this because we were questioning whether the teachers wanted to still have that day off during that.
Concern was not
Yeah.
the teachers, it was the part-time staff.
Okay,
That was concerned because they would lose a payday right there during the holiday time.
but I think you brought this up, that because of the fact that last year, we gave them that day off, and you said that, why did we take it away this year?
Right,
That was the
exactly.
original,
Well, we didn't get a complaint. one way
right,
or the other.
okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a, okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
See something. I forgot what my question was. Go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, so I just have a question. Why are the teachers have an extra 10 days? Because if that's the case, then you can take some of those days off because they only need 180. And then we could bring them down to 189 and they still get off that Wednesday.
Per our contract, we have 190. That's the negotiated contract between the board and the,
But this calendar is for the upcoming school year.
but at this point, nothing else has been changed.
So can we hold off on this calendar until that issue is solidified then?
You know, but you can do, this calendar is due to the state April, but you can always revise it afterwards.
Okay, so we'll just put in the paperwork to the state that we revise the calendar after the fact.
Right, like we do now, whenever we update it again because of whatever, we send a new one in.
Okay, so because the teachers are by state law only have to do 180 days in the state of Pennsylvania, I think that we should, if this needs to be done, then this will be a draft to the board members, and then the board members can do their due diligence and look up the code and see what they need to say, and then if it conflicts with whatever the contract is moving forward, then we can alter the date. Because if we're only basing the calendar on part-time workers, why are we not? Then if that's the case, then we should just only do it for students, and then that'd be 180 days. So we should not be basing our calendar on part-time employees if we're not gonna base it on all employees. Because in my opinion, if you're taking away the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that's one day. What about the days in December when they have off? And then what about spring break when they're not getting paid for those days either? So I'm just really confused.
So it may be, and I wasn't here, I wasn't here, so it may be because it was something introduced to them that was out of the precedence of what they have done for them. And I'm not a part-time employee, so it's kind of hard for me to really get in the fight of it. But I think for them, this was something that, and maybe in their opinion, you introduced it only for full-time employees and didn't think about them. So, but I can't have a real fight in that. Mr. Butler?
Just so there's a contract, there's a collective bargaining agreement for the support staff as well. And their agreement calls for a number of days that they're obligated to work.
So are they gonna work 190 days like the teachers?
No, they, in some cases, they work 185 days, maybe 182 days for part-timers. But the contract for the teachers is 190 days.
I'm fine with that for the
Yeah.
teachers, but I will bring it back I will ask the board to bring this situation back because if the part-time employees are the ones who initiated this, none of them never came to a board member, said anything to us about it.
Right.
Which they are, because employees, community members, business owners can all come here and voice their opinion. They never voiced it to the board. And so being notified about it now in the 9th hour is just, to me, beyond, you had a whole year to speak your piece. So again, if that's the case, if the part-time people are working a maximum of 185 days, then the teacher should be working a maximum of 185 days.
But again, this is, Ms. Monroe, these are negotiated contracts.
Right, so I'm saying, I know that the negotiated contract right now is for 190 days.
Correct.
There's going to be another negotiated contract.
Right, so there's an obligation that the district has to submit this calendar?
No, we can
Oh.
submit it.
Okay.
But I want the board, I would suggest to the board that they bring this back after other deliberations have taken place.
Okay.
Because I know it's a deadline, you have to send it to the state for the approval. But again, if the part-time workers are only working 185 days at the max, then the teachers should only be working 185 days at the max. If they want equal, then the teacher should have equal.
I do want you to consider that there's professional development that the teachers who are responsible for teaching our children must have, and some of that our part-time employees don't have to have. So, I mean,
So are they,
due
do they,
diligence.
right, are they complaining about not having to come to work when there's PD days and the in-service days that they're not getting paid?
Well, they're not complaining about that because they didn't sign up to teach. They don't have, they're doing something else.
Right, so the teachers by state law says they only have to work instructional days. $180 by school code.
We're not questioning that, but.
So what I'm
there's-
saying is if one side is complaining that it's unfair that they're not getting paid, who's to say the teachers are not complaining about having to stay here for 190 days when the state says only have to stay here for 180 days? You see, like this is gonna be a big snowball effect.
Well, but the teachers never asked to be off on Wednesdays. They never came
No
to
one
the
did.
board either.
And what I'm saying as a school board member, neither did the part-time employees come to the school board meeting.
I'm saying
Or send an
equally.
email to the school board members about not getting paid on that Wednesday.
But they followed the protocol and they contacted the two administrators, which would be HR and finance about it.
So they did it after the fact, or, so they complained about one day in November, but not 5 days in December. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So they complained about one day in November and not the 5 days, almost 6 days from December to January.
Well, just another point of clarification. I don't recall, I never received a complaint about any of these days from anyone.
So who
So-
sent, who did the complaining?
We did.
Oh, we,
We did.
But let me ask you something. When you have been getting these complaints, do you know the percentage of the part-timers that has been complaining about having that day off?
Percentage, no, and Brian can correct me if we're wrong. The issue is, one, we're talking about salaried employees versus hourly employees. And there's specific language in the Federation contract about working the day before holidays for those to be considered paid holidays. Brian, is that accurate?
That is exactly the crux of the issue.
So we're comparing two groups, and it's not the same issue for both groups.
Right, I understand that, but after I did my homework and did my investigation, I have not heard or any complaints from the part-timers saying that they would rather work on their day. If anything, they appreciate having that day off.
It's a bigger issue for the full-time support staff, more so than the part-time support staff. These differences within that contract are different. There's language that is unique to that contract for the part-timers that are in that contract, and the language is different for the full-timers that are in that contract, which is very different from the language for our teaching staff. So it is those different contracts that Dr. Ryan just alluded to, and the differences in all of them that presents us with a challenge that we have attempted to mitigate.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, how many part-time staff complained about it that you remember? Because I don't know when they.
and I don't like guessing. But I would say, a handful of percentage, guessing is not good, but members who are impacted by that, and are full-timers, that's protected under that group, those are members who complain about the holiday and the challenge that that produces.
So that, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So we're basing our school calendar on the part-time employees that complain about having the Wednesday before Thanksgiving off. I just want to make sure that that's what I'm hearing right now.
We're based our calendar, as I pointed out last week. There were several factors. Number one, we looked at instructional days, right? So that was the first thing. We changed the 21st to a full instructional day, one of the things we continue to hear from our board, our community, is that we need to improve student achievement. So we don't improve that by taking days away before we have our state assessment. So we tried to look at how many days we can get in. We already can't avoid, we got the Christmas to New Year time. That's been solid for years everywhere. And so we tried to look at how can we get in as much more as we could. And then, so we had to consider that. Then we had to consider parent conferences. Traditionally in this district, during that week, parent conferences are held during the day and at night. And so those last two half days, whether they're the 21st and the 22nd, or the 22nd and the 23rd, also encompasses that. What has turned into all about either a part-time person or a full-time person, I think this is the third time I am saying it was several factors that were thought about. An instructional time prior to state assessment and getting our kids caught up was the very first thing we thought about. Then considering our parents and having those parent conferences and still having those evening ones for the parents who won't make it during the half a day, 12 to 3 was another factor, and then the employees. So we're dealing with three things, but it's being mitigated down to just one.
So if I'm not, when we talked about this in committee of whole, the first point was because, and I could be wrong, the part-time employees wasn't going to get paid for that day. And if we're looking at it, when I left the meeting last week, that's what stuck in my head. So for me, we gave them something during the pandemic. They were home anyway. And if you're going to put that out there, like some people complained about not getting paid, I understand all that, but if that's the case, then we need to make it fair across the board. Teachers shouldn't be here for 190 days.
So I say to you, if teachers come 180 with the students.
No, I'm saying it should.
Because the students are 180.
Right. So
if the teachers come with the students for 180, when do they get the professional development that is required by the state?
These half days.
So you're saying it's okay for the teacher not to get their child abuse to October?
At my school, you have 24 hours to do it, whether it's at work or at home, because it's online. So that could be an online PD.
On their own time? You all have to do it on your own time?
Yes, we do. And if you don't get it, the next day you won't be at work getting paid.
I think some of the charters can get away with things that we can't in the public school system.
Well,
But-
I mean, that's part of their professional responsibility as an educator. So whether you want to keep your certificate or not, that would be up to the educator.
Interesting.
Is my understanding that last year was the first time that took place?
Yes.
So that was a trial and error, sort of, right? We discovered?
Yes, and we did not know what was going to, I can't
Okay.
speak for Mr. Wilson. If he did, it didn't come out ahead of time. We did not know what was gonna happen, as in myself, until it happened and all these other factors came up. Where I came from, pay is different. Holiday pay is different, all of that is different. So this was a news to me.
And Ms. Washington, last Thursday was the first time we ever heard about there being an issue with the pay.
Right.
When it came to that day being off.
Okay, so prior to last year, this calendar looked like
5B.
5B.
5A,
5A, sorry. So prior to that, it looked like 5A.
yes.
And there were no complaints about 5A.
And then in Education Committee, Ms. Monroe suggested
suggested it.
that we try something else, and we did.
Okay.
And then after
found-
that, there were concerns. Did we bring them up at that time? We said we would address it when it came back to when it was time for the calendar again. So when it was time to bring the calendar to the committee of the whole, we did that. If you would look through the board minutes, we've been so busy changing the 2021 calendar. We've had at least 4 times we had to update that and change that. So I actually was supposed to do this one in January and I didn't do it because we had to do another change to the 2021. So we've updated the 2021 at least 4 times. So we've spent our energy trying to get through 2021, but we still have to meet the state deadline. And as I said, I am not ringing a bell for either one, but it is my responsibility, number one, student instruction, can think about our parents and our community as well as our staff. So it's my job to make sure we are aware. And when Ms. Woodfolk last week brought it up, that it was all about this part-time, I went through the same list that I just told you again. So this is the 3rd time I've been a sounding voice that this is more than one thing that we are talking about.
But yes, I understand that, but I'm with Ms. Monroe. I would like for the board to table it because.
But they can't table it because it has to be state mandated.
Oh, so
Bring it back and make a,
Bring it back to, what, in April?
March, April.
You would have to bring it back once you finish the contract with the teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, because that would be the deciding factor on what changes you could make. But you got to remember, and Mr. Wilson would know better than I, the other 2 contracts, they don't end this year, do they? So you'd have to consider those other contracts as well.
Okay, so my concern is the percentage. I want to know how many part-timers would like to work on that day. Because it's like Ms. Monroe said, that we just hearing something about it, and they never came to the meeting or said anything or emailed us. So I'm just concerned about how many people would like to work on that day. No, I'm just saying.
You're making a statement, and I
Right.
hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, because do we have to vote on it today, board?
Yes.
Okay.
This is just motions. This is not the voting time until we come around again. So everyone has expressed themselves about number 5 and number 6? Okay. Are there any questions on finance items 1 through 6? Are there any questions on human resource items 1 through 14? There are no property items, policy items, I'm sorry. Are there any questions on property items 1 and 2? Are there any public comments regarding agenda items?
Yes. From here.
Okay.
Ms. Raquel Irons?
Ms. Irons, you know the rules. 3 minutes, name and address, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Raquel Irons, Burnside Avenue in Sharon Hill. I just have a quick question on page 322 of the agenda, B, Finance, number 6, approved lease agreement with Collingdale Borough for space at the Collingdale Community Center. Is this the space for Night Academy, or is this something different?
No, you're correct, Mrs. Irons. It's for Night Academy.
Okay. Just for clarification for the community members, how much is that, since we don't have the supporting documents, can you tell me how much it is and for how many years?
Yes, well, this is for a renewal. This is just for, I want to say it's an additional year.
Okay.
The monthly rent is $28,378, 8 cents, and we pay it quarterly, which is a quarterly payment of $85,134.25 cents.
Okay, and just for clarification as well for the community.
Sure.
This is separate from the other side of the building, which also is being rented out as well for, does this include the other side?
This
for
includes the
Camelot?
other side, yes.
Oh, it does.
And then the Camelot contract is something different.
Okay. All right, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
You're the best on our agenda.
New business voting. Do I have a motion to approve new business item 1?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. Do I have a motion to approve education item 1 through 4?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve education item 5?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone oppose it?
I oppose.
Who, I'm sorry, who called? It was Ms.
Monroe.
Woodfolk and Ms. Monroe?
The motion carries, so we don't have to read number 6. Do I have a motion to approve finance items 1 through 6?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve human resource items 1 through 14?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve property items 1 and 2?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Community County Committee reports. Ms. Woolfolk, do you have a report on Delaware County Community College?
No.
Wow. Ms. Monroe, do you have a report on Delaware County Intermediate Unit?
No, Madam President.
Ms. Woodfolk, I read somewhere that the president of the Delaware County Community, she's retiring?
Ms. Joy Black? Yes.
Okay. Because I think that's something that we will have to vote on.
Have to vote on what?
When the new applicants come up for, to hold that position. Whenever they decide on who would be the candidates for the presidency.
Wait a minute, I'm not understanding what you're saying.
The president of the Delaware Community College, they put out a resume, what's the word? Search for that position, just like we do for the jobs here. And once that search is done, and those candidates that have applied, they then have to be voted upon by the different districts.
Oh, okay.
So that would be something that we would have to vote on later on. Mr. Fowler, do we have a report on PSBA Legislative Council?
Yes, Madam President. I just have something coming from the National School Board Action Center discussing that this week is Public Schools Week from February 21st to the 25th. And it states that Public Schools Week is designated week for administrators, teachers, specialists, teacher educators, parents, and school board members to reach out to lawmakers, businesses, and other community members to discuss the importance of public education. Public schools have been through a great deal the past 2 years trying to educate young people in the middle of a difficult pandemic. Please let your members of Congress know how important public schools are for your and every community in America. And as a nation, we must continue to make public schools one of the very top public policy priorities in all federal budget and spending decisions. We ask that in the coming weeks that Congress stand up for students and public schools as you make the final fiscal year 2022 spending decisions. And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. I know that one of the things that PSBA will be doing, I think it's in the month of April, that they will be having an advocacy day in Harrisburg. And that will be throughout Pennsylvania. And normally I know when we went up before, we went up on a school bus, and we went to our representatives in Harrisburg, and we presented them with the concerns that we had for our children and the legislative votes that they have to vote on in Congress. So in Harrisburg, so that's why all of this is leading up to that. Because it's important that the legislators realize that our students are important, and the only way that they're going to get the type of education that they need is that they allot us a certain amount of money to reciprocate for our students. Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Dr. Ryan, do you have a report on the Parent-Student Advisory Committee?
I do. Good evening. Last Wednesday, February 16th, the Parent-Student Advisory Committee met over Zoom. We had about 35 to 40 parents, a few administrators, some teachers, and a couple of students who participated. The purpose of the meeting was to solicit community input for the ESSER 3 or ARP funds. They have to fall under a certain number of categories, which are the following: safe in-person schooling and continuity of services, facilities and grounds upgrades, social emotional learning, trauma-sensitive schools or health and wellness, staff recruitment, support and retention, academic recovery and acceleration, systemic equity, or family and community partnerships. Those who were in attendance gave a number of suggestions on how to spend the funds. We will try to incorporate those into our application, which is due, I believe, March 24th, and hopefully they will be spent in the best interest of our students and staff. Thank you.
We also had quite a few board members
Correct,
show
there
up.
were board members there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Mr. Diori, do you have a solicitor's report?
I do not, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diori. Is there an administrative update?
No, that was given during my report about the two schools.
Thank you, Dr. Winder. Are there any public comments regarding non-agenda items?
Yes. Tanya Allen and Hakeem Green.
State your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Tanya Allen, Garden Boulevard, Sharon Hill. I am president of Borough Council in Sharon Hill, and this is Mayor Hakeem Green.
Mayor Hakeem Green, 1116 Woodland Avenue, Sharon Hill.
We wanted to come here tonight and personally say a thank you to Southeast Delco School District, the administration and the students for the efforts that were granted to us by the students who participated in our Black History presentation during our council meeting in February. I reached out to a couple of administrators and Principal Robinson and Principal Boyd, and the enthusiasm behind just putting this forward for us that we received, we tremendously appreciate it, and we were blown away by the students. The effort was, we wanted to just highlight our students. We know that our students are having a tough time. It's tough for everyone, but the children in particular. And what we got from the youth that presented was amazing. We've received so much positive feedback for it. So thank you to the students, Ms. Covage, and their parents who came to support them, and to the district just for allowing them to participate with us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I missed in the middle here, forgive me, Mr. Vogt. Our high school band also had select members of the band that were part of that presentation at the Borough. And we had Nathan Frazier, Mauyuwa Lawa, Kevin Selake, Arwen Rowan, Cassidy Joner, Owen Nelson, and the band director, Christina Covage, performed African Noel. So we also want to give them a hand for their participation. Next, we have Latarsha Threadgill.
Good evening.
Would you
Latarsha
state your
Threadgill.
name and address, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Latarsha Threadgill, resident at 1408 Melrose Avenue, Sharon Hill, teacher at Academy Park, as well as parent of a child here in the district. The first question or comment that I have is that prior to COVID, students and staff were able to purchase food and drinks in the cafeteria at the high school. And the question is, will we have that again this year or in the new school year? And if not, can we consider having vending machines in the cafeteria as well as in staff break rooms? So I wasn't sure if this was a building preference or if this was a district decision. That's the first comment or question.
Mr. Butler will take that back to Ms. Willis, who is our service manager for our food and nutrition, and then he will make contact with you.
Great, thank you. And then my second comment or question would be, can someone please explain or clarify the purpose and the vision and mission for our alternative school here in the district? Simply because at the high school, we do have a number of students who are credit deficient, severely credit deficient. And we also have some individuals at the school with some major emotional and behavior issues that really extend beyond what the school can handle. So I need understanding or clarity about the purpose of our alternative school. Just for example, not being very, very specific, but when you have individuals that are possibly like 12th graders, if you're in the 12th grade and you're a senior and you only have 3 credits, that's a problem, right? So how do you get to being a senior in the 12th grade with only a few credits? So I'm just trying to understand and get clarity about the purpose of our alternative school and how we are better able to move certain individuals over, especially those who are credit deficient.
Dr. Ryan is the supervisor of the alternative school administrator, as well as he's been here probably the longest out of the administrators here. He can give you a synopsis of it.
You want it now or you want it after I sign?
Do I have a seat now?
They're right next to me. Oh, okay. So alt ed and independent study, and now for some kids, cyber. 3 separate programs, all for the most part housed over at Collingdale. The alt ed program is mirrored after, but not approved under, the ADY guidelines from the state. Essentially, when a student, we either get a parent request for a student who's struggling, usually behaviorally, to go to the alt ed program, or a building request from one of the building principals. There's a packet that needs to be filled out detailing all the reasons why alt ed may be maybe a better placement for that student. That gets reviewed and signed off on by the principal, and then it comes to me for the same purpose, essentially to make sure that we're not just warehousing kids over there, and that the kids that are going for the right reasons and have a chance of being successful while they're over there. So that's essentially alt ed in a nutshell. Independent study, sort of the same thing. There is a slight difference this year. So independent study are students who generally fall into one of 2 categories. They are credit deficient, or they have some sort of diagnosed or identified school phobia that they can't be in a class of 25 kids, a high school of 1,300 kids. So what we do for that program is the kids generally go in the morning, 9 to 11. They use the same teachers that the alt ed program uses in the afternoon. It's why we're able to run 2 programs, because they're a shortened day for both programs. And those kids do a lot of independent work. That's why I call it independent study, and sort of use a check-in model for with the teachers. They'll go in, get help with what they need help with. They need a lot of help. They're okay to be there the entire time from 9 to 11, and there's a set schedule for those kids. As far as who goes over there for independent study, it is sort of the same process. Why is the kid going? Have we done everything that we've needed to do? We did make a change this year. The change this year is that I have only allowed 12th graders to go this year. The reason for that is, we are looking at possibly changing the structure of that program so kids are getting more educational time and seats. Right now, with the way it's structured, because we've got the 2 programs, the most we can offer is a half-a-day program for high school kids, because they got to do the independent study in the morning, and then the same teachers are doing the alt ed kids in the afternoon, and that's not even counting their prep and their lunch and things like that. We're sort of kicking around ideas. Mr. Vogt is new, so we're trying to bring him on board too, not that he's not on board, about is there a way to pull off the same programming for kids, but with longer seat time, more academics, more support, but that needs some working out. And then you also have the Camelot kids too that we sort of factor into that Collingdale building that Rock was asking about. So that is both programs in a nutshell. Cyber, same issue, and Mr. Moores is here. If a kid's struggling and alt ed's not going to work out for them, or independent study's not going to work out if they're a 12th grader, we will consider cyber. But again, we've got to weigh against that. If kids are not being successful with all the staff and all the supports and all the structure in our buildings, are they going to be better off with more free time and more independence? And we have to weigh that of what's in the kid's best interest, what he or she thinks is in their best interest, and what we as the educators think is in their best interest. So it's always a judgment game, and we try to do the best we can. And sometimes we move kids in and out of the programs till we find the right fit. But the one change for this year is the 12th grade independent study. You got everything?
Yes, so about how many students do we have that's actually not online, not cyber?
So I know independent study is about 40 of the 300, 325 in the senior class. So you're talking about an eighth of the kids qualify for independent study. Alt ed, Mike, what do we think? Okay, and then another 8 for 7-8? So about 30 kids, 7, 12, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'll switch it.
Okay, I think I appreciate it. Okay, so here's the thing. It sounds as though in what you were saying is like 12th grade, you're focusing on 12th grade.
Correct, because we didn't want to put kids in there, then if we change the program, have to take them back out.
Right. So here's my thing as far as when we're talking about like student achievement and how we can better serve our students. So students are going like 9th grade. They're in the 9th grade. They're literally failing all of their classes. They don't have any credits. So we put 10th grade. They're doing, it's a repeat. They're doing the same exact thing. So it's like we're going from one level to the next continuously, really, with nothing else is happening. And so they're just going from one level to the next. Okay, so now we'll be able to serve you when you become a senior, which is kind of it's too late. Where we're trying to deal with transitioning, we're giving them resources and we're trying to figure something out. So my thing is to better serve students if we see this in the beginning. So if you are 9th grade and you failed all your classes and then you go to the next level, you go to the 10th grade and you're failing all of your classes, at that point, we know that it is really going to be impossible to graduate within 2 years. So how can we better serve our students in the beginning when we see what's happening, because they're not like really getting the credits that they need to graduate instead of waiting until their senior year. But I heard you. Yes. Oh, Grandpa. Mm-hmm.
And are my 3 minutes up? Okay. I don't disagree with the problem. There are a number of factors why kids become credit deficient, as she's well aware of teaching at the high school. If we wanted to make the switch that all or most credit deficient kids have to go to different programming, there will need to be a fundamental switch in the way we structure our high school, because we are talking about a large volume of kids. And we are also trying to push them towards summer school and the after-school tutoring, so they're not all just warehoused at Collingdale where we have limited space and limited number of teachers. But the problem is still there.
So the summer program, how many credits can you take? Or classes?
An individual student can take 3 credits max, because there's three blocks in the during the day.
How many credits, freshmen? How many credits?
How many credits are they scheduled for? How many they need to move to the next grade? I think it's 7 out of the 8. Yeah, 7 out of the 8. Yes, and then it's like 14 out of the 16, 21. You have to have 21 to be what we would call a senior.
But they can only take a max. So even if
I'm sorry, what was that? They can only take
they
a
can only take a max of 3 classes
in the summer.
time.
Right.
So if I fail all my classes,
Right. So my first
something credit becomes if I take
right. So my first answer would be don't fail all your classes.
oh, I will. Yeah.
After that, we would push you towards the after-school credit recovery, where you can get, we had 4 sessions this year, one, so you can get 4 after school. Now, last year it was 3, but we tried to get an extra session in this time, and the 3. In theory, and I would not suggest this to kids, you can get your 7 outside of the scheduled school day right now. But that is not my suggestion for anybody watching.
That's not my suggestion either.
Yeah. The problem is the volume. The volume of kids that are credit deficient.
Right, so my concern I have is that we are graduating scholars, students, in major deficiencies.
At that point, they're not credit deficient. Whether they are skill deficient is a different conversation.
So if you only have 3 credits as a senior, I'm just using the example that Ms. Threadgill used, and you're in your senior year, you have 3 credits, you are deficient everywhere.
Correct. And that kid's not credit.
And so as a district, we did a disservice to that student because we are supposed to do everything possible for the student, whether it's home environment, whether it's social anxiety, whatever it is. If I'm in the senior in high school and I had 3 credits, that's a problem. I agree with you, Ms. Threadgill. It needs to be stopped at the 9th grade level. And sometimes you can see this before they even come over to high school and the grades they have brought into high school. So this is my third term here. And you know me, all I talk about is academics.
I'm not arguing the problem. It is a volume problem, like a number of our problems.
I mean, I knew that this was going on. This is severe. So I am not very pleased with this, and I hope that this was just an example and not facts.
Which part? The 40 credit deficient seniors is fact.
I'm gonna say that one more time. I'm gonna say, I hope this is an example and not a fact.
It's fact.
Well, God bless us all.
I can tell you what you want to hear, but it's a fact. There's 40 credit deficient seniors in Independence Day. Was there? No? Okay, I'll take my 3 minutes.
Chris Fleming?
Chris Fleming, 207 Fulcroft Avenue. So I walked in here about 10 minutes before the meeting started. I noticed that 4 of you were not wearing masks up until the point that the camera started rolling. And so my question is, if you don't have to wear a mask in here, why do my kids have to wear a mask in school? We know that the masks don't work. It's been said by experts. It's everywhere. And I was looking earlier today at the past meetings, when you had the meetings online, when you guys were discussing about reopening the schools. I believe it was January 17th. And one of the board members, I can't remember which one, so I'm not going to words in your mouth. One of you said, I was on board with kids going back to school until somebody said, if we're doing Zoom meetings, why are we going to make the kids go back to school? So my question is, if you're in here without a mask, why does my kid have to wear a mask in school? It's stunting their emotional growth. I hear about teachers talking about kids having, it's been a hard 2 years. It's been a hard 2 years, not just because of the coronavirus, because of the needless policies that this board has put in place. And I think the mask needs to be lifted now. That's all I got.
Thank you for your comments. Maria Jenkins?
Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes also.
Maria Jenkins, Glen Circle, Glen Olden. First and foremost, since I only have 3 minutes, I want to address something that I did address at the school level with the principal, Voigt, and also with Hooven. There's a great concern, and I've had this conversation with a few different parents, and I was told it was made at the board level. The decision was made at the board level. So I wanted clarification on children are actually being suspended. Now, I want to go back to someone just mentioned about the students not having water in the lunchroom or anything like that, having access. My child was suspended from school last week because he was in the lunchroom, no supervision, not a teacher, not a security guard, nobody to give him permission to go to his locker to get a bottle of water. At his locker getting a bottle of water, he was caught out of bounds, an automatic suspension. No detention, no levels of progression, and now on his record. I was told by Hooven and Voigt that a decision was made at the board level for automatic suspension. I remember automatic suspension for hoods on, as it's a safety issue. But out of the bounds of a cafeteria that they have no access to the needs of water, automatic suspension, I'm sorry for getting upset, but and it's not just my child. It's a few other parents that we've been talking about this, that, is a great concern. But I'll just keep, because it's only 3 minutes. Again, the students coming in the morning, you have students that are being given automatic detentions. It is not their fault that the front doors are not opening on time. I've dropped my child off and I've watched them stand there and the doors weren't open on time. But children are getting detentions because staff is not adequately available to let them in. Or when they decide to do searches, which is 1 out of every 5 children, again, they're still delayed. So with this, I wanted to know what was the update on metal detectors, and that will assist with safety and getting the students in the classrooms faster to their academic learning. And my main concern is a child that's on the IEP sitting in a classroom doing virtual learning from a teacher that's in another classroom on another floor. I don't understand. My child sits in a classroom, watches a virtual TV, while there's another, on the IEP, while there's another teacher teaching on the television in another classroom upstairs. I don't understand it. And I don't want to say, oh, my child has an IEP, that they deserve more. All the kids deserve something better. So the 17 kids that's in his class, that's being taught virtually, I think that's a problem. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Jenkins, for the IEP virtual learning conversation, Dr. Gibbs Tapper, I will give her your information. She's our special education director, and she will give you a call. For the metal detectors, we are doing a pilot next week of a form of detectors, but either way, we are slated for the fall to ensure that the metal detectors are in place, if not sooner. For the automatic suspension, Dr. Ryan will talk to, okay. All right.
Thank you for those who came up to the podium with your concerns. Announcement of further meetings of the board. Committee of the Whole meeting will be on Thursday, March 17, 2022 at 6 p.m. Board business meeting will be on Thursday, March 24, 2022 at 7 p.m. Do I have a
So
motion
moved.
Second.
to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.